Share the Load is a time to reflect on the division of labor within our personal relationships. When it comes to the burden of daily life, how do our evolving views on identity and work determine how we share responsibility? I'm your host, Mia Schachter. I'm an intimacy coordinator for film, TV, and theater, and a writer and educator in Los Angeles. Today I'm talking to Tracie Thoms, who's an actress and a singer, and currently on 911. We've known each other for almost 20 years, I think.
Oh my God.
I know it's getting like harder and harder to say every time that I say it. But
yeah, and also the number keeps going up.
I know. I know. I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, I guess I just have to reckon with the fact that that's how time works.
That's how time goes in one direction.
Right. It goes in one direction.
And it keeps going in that direction. It doesn't stop.
And as our relationship gets older, so do we.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's funny about that.
I know. There's no way around it. So I'm really excited about doing this with you because I feel like I'm going to get to know you a little bit better in a different way than I have all these years. So I wanted to start by asking you if you have kind of like formative memories from growing up that kind of shaped how you learned about like work, like sharing work within kind of your family and the home.
Well, I was lucky, I guess. My generation, I guess, my parents' generation, the boomers were a generation where divorce started to really happen. And among most of my friends, and my parents are still married. They'll be married for 50 years this year.
Whoa.
And both of my parents worked. My mother had a more traditional job. I guess she was a social worker. So I grew up with my mom, working with foster care or elderly care. And my father worked in television. So, and my dad loved his job. My mom knew her job was important, but it was really stressful for her.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I learned that. But my dad made more than my mom, but only kind of recently. When they first got married, my mom made more than my dad. I apologize for my dog. He just
That's
never
okay.
know. But yeah, my mom has her master's degree in social work, and my dad has a bachelor's in sociology. So my mom is more educated than my dad. So when they came out of school, my mom made more. And I think my dad was fine with it. As far as I can understand that, he was cool with his wife making more than he did. And then about the time I can remember, my dad made more money than my mom, but we were comfortable because they both worked. So, and I always understood that your duty in the world and in life as an adult is to work. And I got my first job when I was like probably 15, working at Jerry's Sub Shop. And that was great. And then I worked in retail, did all that stuff. So I kind of always had a job. In high school, and what was very important to both my parents was education and work. So yeah, and everybody pulls their weight was how I grew up. My dad was the cook, and it was not traditional in that way. My dad loves to cook. My mom not so much. She doesn't love it, but my dad loves it. So he's a cook, and mom did other mommy things, I guess, but we were all just very much like a really great partnership growing up.
Yeah, that's social work is something that is like a form of work that so often falls on women, and I think there are so many different reasons why that could be. I think it's like part socialized, and it might be part nature as well, but like that is so much emotional labor to then come home and like be a parent, which is, kind of equally like a thankless job. A lot of the time your kids aren't like showing appreciation necessarily. That's, it's interesting to have that kind of, like balance of, was that like was it apparent at all that like she was sort of shouldering the emotional burden of like so many people in
Well,
her
yeah, it
family.
was to me. But as a kid, I just internalized it as she hated her job. I know now that she
Oh.
didn't. Um, but she seemed like she hated her job and she was unhappy.
Hmm.
My dad seemed to love his job and he was happy. So somehow internalized, okay, mental note, when I get older, do something I like.
Oh yeah, and like possibly even with your dad working in TV,
Yeah,
it
I
seems
had
like,
no idea it would be that. I
oh,
just knew I wanted to do something I liked. You know, and at the time, you know, in the 80s, a big thing for kids in the 80s, it was like, we all wanted to be doctors. That was the thing. Be a doctor, be a pediatrician, you know, be the one doctor that I was aware of that I came in contact with was a pediatrician. I didn't have any like, oh, there's also cardiology or anything else. It was pediatrician,
right,
you
right.
know, and like one school year, you have your like what I want to be when I grew up, school pictures. Mind you, they didn't have a whole lot of options, but one of them was doctor. She took a photo with like a doctor's coat on
And like
and
a
a
stethoscope or
stethoscope.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, always a stethoscope
I'd love to see
and a
that
render.
picture
I
if
have to
you have
find
it.
it. I've not found it, and it has to be somewhere in my parents' house.
Oh
But
God, that's a good one.
yeah, stethoscope, like.
Yeah.
But I just knew that, yeah, I just wanted to do something I loved.
Yeah. When did you know that you wanted to act?
I started acting when I was 9, but it was always going to be a hobby. It was just something to do on the weekends to keep me busy because I was an only child until I was 13. So
Oh, I didn't realize that.
yeah, my brother is 13 years younger than me. He lives with me. It's awesome. Um, but yeah, just kind of, you know, I never thought I was good enough. And mind you, there weren't a lot of people on TV who looked like me.
Right.
You know, there were maybe like later, like the Cosby kids kind of look like
Yeah.
me, but I wasn't in that. So that was it. That was the one thing, you know, and I didn't want to be a kid star. I didn't want to like be on TV when I was a kid. I didn't think I would ever be on TV. I thought I would always do theater.
Yeah.
But even still, I thought I would do like community theater because I loved that. I actually love the idea of community theater to this day, that you can like have your whole career, but still have this creative outlet.
Yeah.
Everybody comes together out of their how they're, you know, their busy lives to tell stories on like the weekends or like at nights
Mm.
for a couple of weeks, and you put on a show.
Right. It's like your
You know, and the
hobby.
community comes to see you do the show. I love it. I love the tradition of it. And I really kind of thought that was what I would do once I realized what I was going to do with my life. I guess I thought I was going to go into radio, TV, film like my dad. And I majored in radio, TV, film when I got to Howard University. It was my undergrad. But I just hated it. I did well, but I did not enjoy it at all. You know, I enjoyed the information, but I was in class one day with this kid next to me. I call him a kid now because we were both kids. And he was so like enthralled in what we were talking about. Like we're talking about the acquisitions of like radio stations or something, and how all the radio stations back in the day became monopolies and how the monopolies were broken up. And I was just taking the information to pass a test.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And I was like, "I'm in the wrong place.
Right. Like we're different.
It's not making me feel like that. It does not give me that feeling."
Yeah.
Again, I went to a regular high school for 9th grade. Hated it.
Mm-hmm.
Did not fit in there at all because I'm a weirdo. You know, us artists are weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
And then I switched switched schools to the Bottom School for the Arts. And then still I was like gonna go to college for something else. And my teachers, they were like, "Really? That's interesting." And I was like, yeah. I didn't think I was very good at acting. I liked it, but I didn't think I was great at it. So yeah, so then I was at Howard and I changed my major to acting. My father actually one day, in addition to that day, I had that revelation in class. My dad was was talking to some of his colleagues, and he was like, "Oh, this is my daughter Tracie. She studies theater at Howard." I'm like, "No, Dad, I'm." And he was like, "Oh, right, sorry, she's in radio, TV, film. Which why are you in radio, TV, film? Why are you in communications? It's not what you want to do. Like, and call me out
Whoa.
with friends. It's not what you want to do. You're just doing it because you're scared. I'm around filmmakers all the time. You're not a filmmaker. They look at the world a certain way. You don't. You're an actor. And that's fine. You're just scared. I was like, Dad.
Wow, that's so interesting that he was like calling that out. I think it's so common for artists to like focus more on our plan B than on our plan A.
Right.
You know, like the plan A is like a lot scarier than the plan B. But I think ultimately when we look at like the life that we want to lead, not even trying at the plan A is ultimately way worse. Than
right. So many people do it because, you know, we're told, particularly as actors, and I don't think it's wrong. I just think we're told if there's anything else we can do to make, will make you happy, do that. Because
I know, I've heard that so many times.
If you could be happy doing anything else, do that. Because this life is just so unpredictable and heartbreaking. It just will dash you into the dirt over and over again. But then when you achieve something, it's so exhilarating. So the ups and downs are like.
Right. Well, what do you think of that sentiment now? Like, would you give the same advice if you could do anything else?
Well, yeah, because I know people, I happen to, there's no rhyme or reason kind of to this career. You know, I've been very, very lucky to have steady work, but some of those things are beyond my control. You know, I happen to have a look about me that is non-threatening as a woman of color, which is important. B, I have a very kind of every woman thing about me. Like everybody, even before I was on TV, people would always think they knew me from somewhere. People always like, you look like my you know, and I'm like, no, I just have a face that seems familiar.
Oh, that's so interesting because I feel like your energy is so easy to connect with because you're like a really welcoming and kind of like there's a nurturing like you're a very warm person, but I don't think of your face as like a, you know, like a super I don't, maybe that's just because I've known you forever. But.
Well, yeah, I think maybe that's that too. And it was something that was like for example, if there's a line of people, like I'm in line. Yeah. And someone's trying to get from one side of the line to the other. They're trying to break the line or walk through. Okay. They will almost always pick me. Huh. Even my whole life. They're like, hi, I gotta get through or whatever. But out of all the people, it's almost always me. If someone is lost and they're looking around trying to ask somebody for directions, they will almost always pick me. Whoa. Whether it's a subway, whether it's a crowded, it's hundreds of people around. They'll like, look, search face, you, hi. And I'm like, I went through a period where I started to notice this. And I was like, let me just pay attention to it and see if I'm making it up. You know, and I would see somebody coming, I would see a whole long line of people. It didn't matter where it was in the right. You know? Right. All the way in the back or all the way in the front, you know, unless it was too cumbersome in either direction. But yeah, they were always like, hi, excuse me. And I'm like, what is that? There's something like very approachable about you. Yeah. Open face or whatever. And I think that's why in the beginning of my career, I was booking commercials because people will buy things from someone who looks like me. You know, yeah, definitely. You know, they trust me. You know, and some of that is energetic for sure. But some of that is just literally the genetic makeup of my face, the symmetry and the way my eyes are shaped and all those things. I have no control over that. Wow, that's so interesting. Right, and sometimes I get really scientific about these things, so it's weird, but it helps keep me kind of grounded in something, because or else you're just grabbing at. Yeah, like why? Why? You know, right. Why am I successful when people I came up with who are just as talented, if not more talented than I am? Why am I the successful one? And there are a lot of factors. You know what I mean? Yes, there's talent. Yes, the talent is part of it, but I know people who are way more talented than me who can't get arrested. It's the range of things I can do. I can do a lot of different things. You know, so. And yes, the fact that I sing has helped me a lot, particularly as a Black woman in this business, because musicals are bountiful for Black people, you know, for Black women, particularly my generation in the 80s. I was like, I could sing a little bit, you know, I was a kid, you know, I was like, I could sing a little bit, you know, but the community theater I was in, they were like, listen, because it was an all-black community theater. Because I started at a little theater company when I was 9. I was the only black girl there, and that did not serve me. And my dad was like, yeah, we got to move you. So like, oh, like they'd have a family, and I couldn't be a member of a family because they were all white. You know what I'm saying? They didn't really, understand that.
Yeah, and
but we're children.
Right, open the mind a little bit to the possibility.
Yeah, so he was like, yeah, we're getting out of there. So when I went to this black community theater, Players, which I love so much, but they were like, well, in the 80s, it was like, this is like the very beginning of August Wilson, and there wasn't a lot of black straight theater. Right. So like, you want a career, you want to work, you best learn to sing. And I locked myself in a room, my room, and just taught myself how to sing, Yeah,
I mean, clearly you had some innate talent, though. I mean, give yourself.
I guess. But what also was interesting about it is when Rent came out, the movie, they came to my parents' house and did like interviewed my parents, like homegrown talent. Blah, 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 blah. So did you always know that your daughter would be a star? Dumb question. And they're like, no. And I was like, what?
Well, of course. I mean, that's so funny.
They were like,
what did they say?
They're like, no. And they were like, well, the thing is that's very confusing about this whole thing is like when Tracie was young, she could not sing. Huh. She was singing in the shower and it was not pleasant. But they never told me I couldn't sing.
Right. Wow.
You know what I mean? I never had anybody like, oh, girl, tone deaf, just mouth the words and don't actually sing out loud. I didn't have anybody telling me that I couldn't sing, but I couldn't do anything. So they said eventually they would listen to me in the shower, they'd go, and then one day it wasn't. Huh. And one day they were like,
I mean, because Tracie, that's so shocking because like not only do you clearly have like an incredible ear and like knowledge of how music works, but you have an extraordinary voice. Like your range is incredible. Like it's not just like, it's not like if I shut myself in my room and like learn to sing, I would maybe sound on a good day like an old Liz Phair album. So like I would never be able to achieve like what.
Well, I think that there's something that I probably don't account for as well is I grew up in a very musical house. My father listened to everything but like heavy metal. But we listen to rock, we listen to country, we listen to musicals. We don't listen to opera really or classical music either. But we would go from like Kenny Rogers, rest in peace, Kenny Rogers. Oh. Kenny Rogers to the Doobie Brothers to Michael McDonald to Stevie Wonder to Donny Hathaway to Barbra Streisand to Johnny Mathis to Ben Vereen to so I grew up with a lot of sonic examples coming at me at all times. So I just became an imitator of those sounds. It took me a long time to find my own voice. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, I was just imitating. I was like, I'm just going to sing like In Vogue. Try. But I just sat in the house and just trying to do it over and over again. Yeah. Until it wasn't so terrible. There was always music in my house, and my dad sings, and he loves to sing. My mom does not sing at all. Really? But she just do this all the time. My mom's always a practical one. My dad's a dreamer. My mom was always very practical. So when I was like, okay, I'm gonna change my major to theater, my mom was like, whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. Mm-hmm. I understand why you didn't do it. I want you to make money. I want you to feel like, there's a career for you out there. But, and then while I was at Howard, circling back, I auditioned for the British American Drama Academy at Oxford. And I got in, and and not only did I get in, I got like a full scholarship, and the head of that program was Michael Kahn. Michael Kahn was like, are you auditioning for Juilliard? I'm like, yeah. Because one of my teachers there, Dr. Singleton, who was also president, she was like, I think you should consider grad school. I think someone like you would do really well. Because I'm so like heady about things.
Yeah.
So auditioned for Juilliard and I got it, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing it.
Right, all in.
For real. I mean, once I changed my major to acting, I was already doing it. But I really felt like I was gonna I'm gonna do bus and truck tours of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat for the rest of my life, and I'm gonna starve. But you know what? I'll be happy, damn it.
Oh, I'm glad that wasn't your fate.
Yeah, I would have loved it though. I mean, until my knees gave out or whatever.
Right. Well, and the money and, yeah.
Yeah, I was prepared for that to happen, but I think it started to become apparent to me that I would work, that I was hireable.
Yeah.
Not necessarily as like the star of a thing, but as a supporting player of a thing. Who, like, my whole life has kind of been like I've been like the supporting character who audience members are thankfully often like, why aren't you the lead?
Right.
And I'm like, because I don't have whatever that quality is. I'm not like pretty enough, or I'm not.
Well, isn't it interesting though
Whatever.
how like it's almost like in being approachable, that like works for you in so many ways, but that also there maybe is, I mean, I know you to have an edge, but I think there's something like with being approachable where at least the perception from like an audience is that you are kind of like, as you said, kind of the every person, and often that person is relegated to like the
friend
or the comic relief, but also race comes into play there for sure too. I mean,
yeah, for sure. But but I think, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if I were like a leading lady early on, then I get stuck in that thing, and then age comes in, and then once you age out of that, then there's that trauma that happens that I'm not really experiencing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the best friend just moves right into the therapist, right? When you
sure. Oh yeah. How many therapists and social workers have you played? Yeah. Well, so okay, I want to talk about like your work now, and like I'm more interested in kind of the invisible work that you do. Like not so much actually your career, but I'm a little more interested in like the work that you do kind of in your relationships, and like even I would think in like your professional relationships, but I'm just I'm trying to make a distinction between like being on set and like your day, like your job versus like kind of the internal work that you do. And I guess I'm curious, like what's the work in relationships that you find comes most easily to you?
I think being that's a good question. Wait, I had an actual segue into this question. It was like lingering in my head. It just floated away.
We can find it. We can circle it.
I'll find it. It'll come back to me. I think the thing that's easiest for me is to be kind of a provider. So I'm always like on output. Like I'm always giving and supporting and whatever you need, blah, blah, blah. How do I connect this person to this person? How do I very much recognize my position of privilege being a successful actress, and how do I help other people achieve their goals? How do I support me to the point where I go above and beyond so much that it becomes detrimental to everybody? That's the thing that I watch out for. You know what I mean? Because then I can become an enabler. Really quickly, because one of the reasons why I found it just came back to me. Okay, great. In addition to, this is a segue, but it was a lingering thing from the last bit. In addition to the things that I cannot control, like how I look or what my type is or things like that, the things I can control is my work ethic and how I show up for my job. And when I laid the foundation for my career back in my late teens, early 20s, my work ethic was insane. Once I switched my major to theater, I was literally doing 20 credits because I had to make up for time because I wanted to graduate on time. So I was carrying 20 credits per semester, but also doing shows outside of school. So if the show at school did not cast me, I was doing a show at the dinner theater that was 40 minutes away, you know, and I would go to rehearsal, or I was doing a play back in Baltimore. It was in DC, Baltimore. So I was always in rehearsal for a show or in a show. Even though I was in a show, I'll be in rehearsal for another show. And and even the other students in my class, they would make fun of me because I was like, they were like, what is wrong with you? How do you have that much energy? And I actually don't know how I had much energy or drive. I was just driven to it was just so driven. Now I can relax.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm like, can I get some of that back, please?
Right.
I would like some of that back.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, ooh. Well, she was cute back when she was 20. She was running around on the highway all the time.
So much energy.
I know. I can't even imagine. Now I'm like, what are the words? What are the lines?
Well, I can attest that your work ethic was visible in the one time I saw you audition when I was a casting assistant on The Affair. Like, you are such a pro auditioner. Like, from the moment that you walked in the door, like, it was like very clear that you were so incredibly not just prepared, but like embodying the role. And I, you know, obviously I'm assuming that you haven't sat in on that many auditions, but
no, I haven't.
It is apparent almost instantly, like the same way that I think happens with like attraction and chemistry, you know, where like when you have a date and the person walks in the door, you pretty much know one way or the other.
Right.
Like that, it's the same thing in the audition room. And like when you
I know that when I coach auditions, I coach actors. That's one thing I try to tell them. I'm like, the moment you walk in the room, your audition starts.
Mm-hmm.
And that whatever energy that is starts there. And a lot of times I feel like a lot of actors, particularly young actors, feel like that means they have to come in the room and be on. You know, walking like, hi, blah, 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 you know, and I'm like,
right.
You know, I mean, and sometimes, you know, I would just tell people, just, you know, just act like you're supposed to be there and you're there to do a job, you know what I mean? Because like, as I'm more of a veteran in this business than I used to be, which is crazy to me. One thing about I've been in this business almost 20 years now. It's just like everybody needs to be where they're supposed to be. So the casting director actually wants you to be good. They need you to be good.
Yeah.
People think casting directors are judging them or they're against them or they're like, what are you going to, you know, I'm like,
oh no, they'd prefer if you nail it.
Yeah. And, you know, and there are exceptions. People have had nightmare situations where the casting people are on the phone or eating or doing weird things while they're, you know, whatever. And yes, that does happen, sadly. But for the most part, the casting director needs you to be good. Because they need the producer to trust them to bring them good people. So everybody needs to work together. So now I feel more like I can walk in the room and be like, okay, what are we doing here? What do we need? Mm-hmm. Let's see if I can provide it. And if I can't, that's okay. That doesn't mean I'm a bad actor. That means I'm not right for this. And I don't want to be cast in something I'm not right for. Totally. It's terrible if you cast me in something just to give it to me because you like me. Yeah. But I'm not right for it. It's a nightmare. I've been in that situation. You don't want that.
It's like, I mean, it sounds like being in a bad relationship, you know, where you're like, we're just not compatible. Why are we trying to make this work?
Exactly. So I don't want to be in something that I'm not supposed to be in because you can feel it every day. You feel like you're wearing clothes that don't fit you. Yeah. You know, so you walk in and it's like you're either I'm right or I'm not. And I've seen it enough. You know, I've sat in on enough auditions kind of and been around to know that you know, often you know before the person opens their mouth. Yeah. Or a friend of mine was just telling, actually I'm coaching him later today, he was telling me how he watched somebody get cast on a set and from a phone, they had a taped audition or whatever, from a phone with no sound. Wow. They weren't even listening to the person. They just looked at the guy like, that's him. That's the guy. Whoa. Okay, keep, you know, whatever. They cast it just like that, just from his energy and the way he looked. Right. So, I mean, so anyway, but yeah, work ethic is a big deal. But my personal relationships, it's the thing that's easy for me to do is like be kind of like a champion and like no, I got you, whatever you need, blah, 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 blah. You need a place to stay. You need a meal. Can I buy you dinner? That stuff is easy for me to do, to be kind of like the den mother.
Yeah. Yeah. Your home reflects that too.
Well, yeah, that's why I got this house. I have a home that's, too big for me.
Right.
But the way the market was in 2009, when I got it, you could get a relatively large house for a good price because the market had plummeted.
Right.
So I was looking at houses, and it was either the small houses and slightly bigger houses were all the same.
Yeah.
But what I do, as you've been to my house, I throw these parties and these big parties, but the parties are not like for me. It's not like I'm sitting in the corner and having people come to visit me. I'm like working, like I'm at work.
Yeah.
I'm trying to provide a space for people to meet people and network and have a good time and unwind and have fun and whatever. And I've had all kinds of people meet at my house. I've had people meet and get married and met here. You know what I mean? And have kids and stuff. They met at a party at my house.
Oh my God.
I've had, so many business relationships have kicked off from being here. So that is what I'm very, very good at. What I'm not good at is boundaries. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at, like a friend of mine was like, Tracie, I think you have like survivor's remorse. Because like I'm the one friend of all my friends I grew up with who made it so far. So I'm always feeling guilty about that, whether it's conscious or which is why I can give and give and give to my detriment and to theirs sometimes.
And maybe past the limitations of what you actually have in your life or your resources.
Even energetically or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
What's supposed to happen is if you provide at one point when you're like, that's enough, I have to take care of myself now, then suddenly I'm the devil.
Right, because people have learned to start to expect it, and they're like, "What happened?" I still need this advice, or I still need something from you.
I need this access, or I still need you to put me first. I need you to do, and if they'll see me continue to be on output for other people, but I no longer have it for this person, and that person is like, "Well, you giving it to her now, you're giving it to him now," and then it becomes a big thing. But like, it's something in my life now that I have to just do, you know what I mean? And I don't like it. It's very uncomfortable and it's painful, but nobody grows if you just keep.
Right. There's also like, I think it's so easy to forget that we also need to be like champions for ourselves and recognize like, as much as I want to support this other person, I'm not actually going to be able to continue to support them if I'm like depleted.
Yeah, or if I'm not neglecting what I need, if I'm choosing what you want over what I want.
Right.
Over time, that's just a breeding ground for resentment. And it's eventually going to come out,
I know. It's like all those bad emotions. It's like the guilt leads to the resentment, and then it just sort of like festers. And
Yeah, and it's so funny because like I just feel I think a lot of my giving nature is innate. It's from my father. My father's the same way. My mom was just like, okay, just always trying to keep things afloat. But my dad is always like, hey, I'm popping tea, whatever you need. I'm buying drinks, I'm buying dinner. I get it from my dad. Come over to our house. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I love that about myself, that generosity. But then people just think I'm a bank.
Right. Well, and then as soon as it turns from generosity into like obligation, like that's a really fine line.
It is a fine line, and but it's like there was this line in this play that I auditioned for, which was All My Sons, I think, on Broadway, and this woman is talking about how she supported her husband in the beginning of their marriage, and she's like, and that was terrible. I provided for my husband in the beginning, and that turned into a bad idea. And the other person like, why? I said, well, because a person can't owe you without resenting you.
Yeah.
And I was like,
boom. Wow. Yeah, that's heavy.
Oh.
So how have you what have you been able to incorporate into your life in order to kind of protect that for yourself now?
Well, therapy is
Mm-hmm.
great. Another thing I'm also good at, I just thought of it just now, is that I have like kind of extreme empathy. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can always see where another person's coming from, and so I can always kind of see two sides to things. And people are always like, "Okay, logical, Tracie." What? I'm like,
Mm.
well, you think about, because I kind of think, generally speaking, a rule of thumb I live by is most things aren't personal.
Right.
Many things that can hurt you, they're not trying to hurt you. They just, everybody's doing the best they can, with what they have in the moment. You know what I mean? So if I take the personal thing out of a lot of things, I'm like, well, they probably just had a bad day.
Right.
Like somebody being weird to you out in the street or whatever. I'm like, they probably had a bad day. I don't know what they're carrying. That's not about me because I didn't do anything to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go on with my life and not walk around like, he said this and blah, blah, blah. No, now we're going to fight. I know a lot of people who take everything personally. They think everything is personal. What about me made you think you could say that to me? I'm like, they don't even know you.
Right. I know. I'm working on that one too.
Taking everything personally. I mean, sometimes things are personal. So it's a balance.
Right.
And I usually am very good at accepting people right as who they are without trying to change them or judge them because of it. You know what I mean? Just this is who you are. And that's great. People like, you just take people just as they are. We're not, demanding things from people to be different than who they are. I mean, I can, like, that's who you are and I'm going to adjust accordingly, but I'm not going to try to make you adjust to make me comfortable.
Right. And also finding that adjustment that like doesn't make you feel like you're like acting in conflict with like who you are and your nature. I think that like finding the ways that you can adjust to like communicate better with somebody without sort of sacrificing like the integrity of who you are. That's also a really fine line.
To a person that's like, no, I'm going to go off on you, or I'm going to try to destroy you, or I'm going to retaliate, or I'm trying to, because those things are not in my nature. Some people are very good at it, and I don't think it's a good thing necessarily, but they're like, okay, I'm going to plan your whole demise. Watch this.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I'll just kind of like exit the situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people will call it ghosting, and I don't really ghost people because if you talk to me, if you reach out to me, generally speaking, I will reach back and we can talk, but I'll just kind of back up.
Right.
And if you reach out, well, we'll talk, but I'm not going to like go after you and keep trying to fix it.
Right.
Which is what I used to do. I used to always try to fix it. And I'm like, I'm just going to let you be over there. I'll be over here. And if you come at me crazy, if you come at me like and try to demand that I engage with you, even though you're being destructive, then I won't engage. Mm-hmm. That's when you'll get the ghost. I'm like, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah.
You're trying to lash out. I'm not obligated to participate in this with you. You're going to talk to me like a person, we can talk, but if you're going to try to lash out at me, I just block. Nope.
Yeah.
I won't block you in a week. We'll talk in a week because you're trying to pull me into something that is not constructive for either of us.
Right. I wonder, have you talked, like, so this thing that you said that you kind of got from your dad, this like, nurturing, welcoming, like supportive kind of party thing. Have you talked to him at all? I wonder if he had about that. Like, I wonder if he has a similar experience of like kind of the maybe the feeling of obligation or like teetering on the feeling of obligation when people start to expect it kind of thing.
Yeah, we have, but he's always telling me to be careful, Mm-hmm. And he said to me one time, which was, it took me a while to get it. And I wish, you wish you could get stuff the first time.
Yeah.
You have to live through it. You have to. But when I came out here, when I came out to LA, I mean, I was coming off of Rent. I just done Rent. I was on Cold Case. I was on this TV show. I had just done this big movie. I was working this Tarantino movie. It was like all this like. So then my friends who I grew up with were like, and I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, let's do this, and they were all very excited, and I was all very excited. I'm like, come with me, and blah, 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 whatever. I'm bringing everybody with me. Let's go, whatever. And it was all very exciting and new and fun, at the beginning. And my dad told me early, he would just be careful. Be careful that you don't start treating your friends like employees.
Oh.
And I was like, and I wasn't doing it, but he was like, I know how this goes. I know this story, you know, just be careful. And I was like, I would never. He's like, I'm just saying. So then what ends up happening when you're in that position, some of your friends start to like fall into like employee situation. They start like, well, I can help you with this. Well, I can do this. And you're like, okay, you know, because they know you need help. And they're your friends and they love you. You know, they know you need help. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, sure. Yeah. If you want to, you know, and then they need to feel purposeful and they want to be a part of it. So I'm feeling like I'm helping in some kind of way. And I'm like, and then if you're with me doing this thing, then I can introduce you to these people and then you can create these relationships and have them for yourself. And trying to do it, but it's a very delicate balance. And you have to really be out in front of it the whole time because it's very quickly can flip into like, they feel like, oh, you just think I'm here to serve you. I'm like, well, no, you offered. And then you kept offering. And then I'm like, okay, so I guess we're doing this exchange. You know, and then that turns ugly.
Well, that's the owing people without resentment thing. Like that's so hard. And boundaries too. Like, you know, maybe, right. Like if you have a friend who's an accountant and you need an accountant, you're going to call your friend who's an accountant or a lawyer or whatever. But then, like those roles start to shift and change and money gets involved and it starts to get really complicated when you start to feel like maybe you're monetizing your friendship or whatever.
Yeah, because it's very hard in this business particularly, and really, really when you're in the beginning of it. And we all know that comparison is a thief of joy. Like we know that, but it's very hard to not do that, particularly in artistic, you know, careers. So it's very easy to be like, you know, I'm doing well, but why aren't you doing well?
Right.
You know, and my friends will be like, well, I know why you're doing well because you did this, and it's great. Oh my God, I'm here. But over time, you can feel it. You can feel it happening. You know what I mean? And I have been in a position where I was at Juilliard graduating, and right when you graduate, it's the worst time because you do this showcase, and some people in your class get a lot of attention. Some people get none.
Right.
You know, and you want to be that person who's like, I'm just happy for the people getting more attention. But I learned that I had this jealousy in me that I hated. I hated it so bad. I didn't want to have it. You know what I mean? I don't like the way it felt. I don't like the things it made me think, you know.
And you love these people too, and you don't want to like.
I love them, and I didn't know how to allow myself to have both feelings at the same time. I felt I was judging myself for having these feelings when I'm like, of course I had those feelings, you know. Of course, my roommate at the time was getting phone calls from like, oh, Denzel Washington called me today. And I'm like, great. My phone didn't ring, you know, and I just hated it. I hated how it made me feel. And it started to chip away at my relationships, you know what I mean?
Right.
That was my second bout with therapy. I was like, I gotta talk to somebody about this because I couldn't lay it on my friend, you know?
Yeah.
I could be like, I'm jealous of you. I think you're better than me. And so why does it matter? Even if they are better than me.
Yeah, I mean, because even if, as you were saying, like certain people are the right fit for certain roles, like there's also that element, right, where we can like look at people who are getting farther ahead in the field that we work in and be like, well, yeah, like you were just better for that. Like you were a better fit for this.
Yeah. Or even if you're more talented than me. So
sure.
You know what I mean? That's just real. There are people going to be more talented than you. There are people going to sing better. People going to be prettier and smarter and taller or shorter or thinner or whatever. You just need to be the person that you are, you know. And
so where are you with that now?
It took a lot of work. I mean, like I went through this period where if I felt competitive, I mean, I also can be very competitive, and I don't like that either. A little bit of it is good, but I don't like the way it makes me feel. So if I had an audition coming up and my direct competition, I knew them, you know, I would call them and make sure they had the audition. You know, would be like, hey, you going in for this thing? Make sure you're going in for this thing, you know. And they're like, really? I'm like, thank you. You know, I'm like, yeah. I mean, we're all in this together.
Right.
You know, and if it's mine, it's mine. So I kept testing that idea that what's for me is for me and what's for you is for you. So me trying to keep it from you.
Right.
Is I don't want it that way. I don't want it because I was hoarding or being secretive or not being generous and open, you know. And a lot of people were shocked that the actresses I would call would be shocked, you know. A couple of them like, I would not do this for you.
Right.
I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, well, I mean, I think you'd be really right for it. I think you're really right for it.
Right. I think
You
that
know?
also speaks to like you're kind of you're kind of rejecting this scarcity mentality that we see in this industry of like,
Well, yeah, because I don't want to live in that space. I know it's a there's truth to it. Like there's only so many roles.
sure.
You know, the idea that there's room for everybody. Yeah, but really, is there?
Yeah, there is actually like a number that you could
There
put
actually
on
is
that.
a finite number of how many roles there are. Whereas if you're a musician, there's room for everybody. You know, what I mean, there's no role you're trying to get hired to do. You know,
Right.
There's only so many slots in a certain like concert series, sure, but
yeah, no, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But there's you know thousands of girls are going to compete for this one role, and only one will get it.
Right.
Is the truth of it. So it puts us in this really weird feeling. You feel like you're in the Hunger Games.
Yeah, but I guess you could also think about it like over time, there isn't a finite number of roles. Like as you look at it into the future, like yes, there may be only a certain number of roles that are, but you know, like if someone else gets it over you today,
there's another role out there. Yeah, for sure. I always look at pilot season like musical chairs.
Right.
In the beginning, musical chairs, like we have all the actors are there with all the chairs, and then they move one chair.
They take a chair, yeah.
They take a chair, and they're all competing for, you know, that slot. Do you know what I'm saying? And by the end, you're still like circling the chair, you know.
Right, and you need a chair.
The jobs, right? I'm making this up as I go along. The chairs are the jobs, and you're all competing for one less job.
Right.
And at the end, you're like, who's left? You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, like negotiation comes into play too. And it's like, you know, and location and all these things that are like, you might be the right person for the job, but then these maybe like scheduling, that job on The Affair almost didn't pan out simply because of scheduling.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of things because of scheduling, but that's a sexy problem, right?
Sure. Right. You're so in demand. I made that work, by the way. I figured out that schedule.
I'm so grateful. I look back at it. I was in the middle of so many jobs at that point. Yeah, I'm poor being right. That I was watching it when it came on. I was like, I don't really remember any of this.
Oh, wow.
I remember the experience of it. I remember the energy of it. I remember trying to figure out this chair move in the beginning to come in and flip the chair and hit the mark and whatever. I remember that, but the words, I was like, oh, I had a lot to say, and I couldn't tell you one of those lines.
Wow, that's amazing.
I couldn't tell you one because I was in the middle of like, you know, I tend to get the jobs I do tend to get are wordy. I tend to get like, you know, cops and, you know, FBI agents, a lot of, you know, they talk a lot. Like FBI agents, therapists, you know, that chick was like a PR fixer chick.
Yeah, like a publicist.
A publicist, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna call and you're gonna do this. You're gonna issue an apology. Blah, 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 and speech, you know. And my brother was like, it's because you have like the warmth and the caring and the listening intently. Like cops are like, I'm just gonna bust down the door and blah, 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 and pull a gun out. Right. Whatever. They don't interview people. Right. You know, cops don't interrogate. Cops don't sit in the room and go, okay, so what's going on? That's not what a beat cop does. A beat cop
just not about listening. Yeah. That might have actually come like from your mom in a way, right? Like that's sort of the innate, that obviously, you know, it's like always a chicken and egg thing. Like, was she a social worker because she was a good listener, or did she become a good listener because she was a social worker kind of question?
Yeah. My dad is also a very good listener as well. I mean, I have good listening parents, you know, they're gonna go, okay, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about that particular aspect of listening and like coming from a place of honesty and being present in the moment, is that if you're a really good actor, you're good at all of those things, and that makes you a better person.
Yes. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, we do have to wrap up. Unfortunately, I feel like I could talk to you all day, as always. But my last question for you is, can you share 3 people or experiences or pieces of media, whether it's like a show or a book or a movie, that were formative to you that you would consider have like brought you to exactly this moment in your life? I'll tell you, Rent is one for me. So
Rent is one for me too. I mean, definitely. I mean, when I saw it on Broadway, I was like, I have to be in the show. I was just like sobbing. I didn't know why,
yeah.
but I knew I had to be in it. I saw it in 97 and I booked it 2004. So Rent for sure. It changed my life more than once. More than once it changed my life. A person, Marion McClinton, who just passed away.
Oh yeah.
He was a director and mentor for me that, he could really speak my language in a way, and it was really challenging to me more than me. I have this thing about me apparently, and at Juilliard, because I've been acting for so long, I could kind of be slick with it, just like, I'm just gonna pull out my tricks and do it, it'll be fine. And Marion was like, no, you're not gonna do that thing that you do. You're gonna do this. Yeah, I don't know what you're gonna do, but you're gonna get out there and challenge yourself and dig into a place that you don't want to go to, but you're gonna do it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do it. And he just challenged me over and over again. And we worked together several times, and then became one of my best friends. And he also put me in a room with August Wilson, and I worked on an August play with August Wilson.
Oh God, that just gave me chills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, even I can't believe it happened, but it did. So definitely Marion McClinton. My parents, that's cliche. I can say that all day long. My parents, they're amazing.
I don't think that everyone would say their parents, I think that that's a really
it's true. Choice. A lot of people would, or a lot of people feel like they should. I had an acting teacher, John Sticks, the late John Sticks, who was amazing at Juilliard. And, the way he talked about acting, he was like, the way we always look at acting, like you have to try to become someone who's outside of yourself. Like, so you say, it's like Juliet is over there.
Right.
I have to become Juliet. So I'm doing all this process, try to become somebody else. And he was like, instead, Juliet is me. So I'm Juliet.
Yeah.
And then I changed things about myself that Juliet wouldn't do, but rather than like change my whole humanity to become something else, I asked myself questions like, well, how does Juliet speak? And if she speaks differently, then I change that one thing. Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to change my whole humanity, because you're the only humanity that you can come from. You can't create another humanity, because that's who makes you. So if you try to separate your humanity from the character, it's really hard to get it back at the end. So try to put it back in there. And I was like, oh, that makes complete and perfect sense. But my humanity is what I'm made up of. My mother not being an artist, but being very practical and being very like thoughtful in that way really helped me with my work ethic and all that stuff. Because my dad's a dreamer. Mind you, his work ethic is great too, but he's like impulsive, and he's a dreamer. My mom was like, okay, all right, guys, down to brass tacks. So yeah, I would say my parents as a unit, because I have really the best of both worlds there. I guess that's 3.
Yeah, that's 3. I think what you're saying though about what that acting teacher was saying is such a beautiful metaphor for kind of the limitations of empathy, but also like kind of what makes empathy a beautiful challenge is like, it's not, you can't possibly become someone else. You can't possibly like know what it's like to be someone else. You can really only dig into your humanity and like ask questions. Yeah. I
really approach acting in a more logical way than other people I know. They go straight like emotional to get somewhere, and I'm like, I'm not wired that way. I have to like figure it out, And also another amazing teacher, Franchelle Stewart Dorn, had had great teachers, and they get these little nuggets. Mm-hmm. She always talked about emotion is a side effect. It is not a thing. It's not a thing on its own. People aren't just sad unless you're battling depression. That's a different. Sure. Unless you're actually like having a clinical issue. Generally speaking, sadness comes from a thing. Happiness comes from an event or a thing or a person, whatever. So you can't chase the emotion to chase the thing.
Right.
And the thing will produce the emotion as a side effect. And you don't know what it's going to be. You don't know what the emotion is going to be necessarily, you know. It may be, you may feel nothing, and that in itself is something.
Yeah.
You know, this whole thing with the actors, like, I just want to feel
like
cry.
Feel, yeah. Right.
Feel. How does it make you feel? I don't care. How it makes you feel.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And what do you need?
What do you want? And what are you doing to get it? And your failure to get it or your success in getting it will produce some kind of emotional response as a side effect. You can't go after the emotional response.
Right. That's really beautiful. Well, Tracie, thank you so much. Can you tell people where they can find you?
I'm on Twitter at Tracie Thoms.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on Instagram at Tracie Thoms. And also I'm on Cameo. You want to Cameo? You can see me on Cameo and we can have a chat.
Cool. If you find these episodes enriching or educational, please consider becoming a member at patreon.com/sharetheload. You can also help by rating and writing a review of the podcast on iTunes and sharing it with friends. I'm on Instagram at Mia Schachter. There's 2 CHs in there. And you can follow the podcast at Share the Load Podcast. Special thanks to Pete Ziarto at Director Pete for recording, editing, and producing, to Tyler Field for the music, and Candace Blake-Goodman for the cover art. You can reach me with questions and comments at podcast@sharetheloadinc.com. Thanks, Tracie.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
So good to see you.
Yeah. Stay safe.
You too. You too.